to my brand new series for the channel. This series is going to be an informative one about all of the cut content from our favourite games, as well as any beta or prototype content that has been found. Just because I find this stuff so fascinating, seeing what could have been. In the first ever episode, we will be focusing on the cut content from the classic DS game, Mario Kart DS. There is a good amount of cut content in this game to discuss, as well as 2 known prototype builds used during several events to promote the game. Let's just get right into it. Let's start with the earliest known prototype demo, being a European multiplayer demo kiosk which has been dated 28th of April 2005, roughly 7 months before release. You can actually play this demo for yourself today, since the ROM was dumped back in 2019, although it is a tad finicky. In this demo you couldn't actually select your character, instead you would be randomly allocated a character to play as. As well as this, only 8 tracks were actually playable, being Figure 8 Circuit, SNES Mario Circuit 1, Yoshi Falls, Moo Moo Farm, Cheep Cheep Beach, Peach Circuit, Luigi's Mansion, and GCN Luigi Circuit. This demo was also only playable with at least 2 players, but with cheat codes, single player is possible. Cheats can also allow you to access the debug menu, meaning you can select any character and all tracks are actually available. The only issue is that this debug menu isn't actually visible, but if you know where everything is and you keep track of your position in the menu, it is functional. So let's see what is actually different in this demo. First up is a slightly different item box model. It's really hard to tell, but it is different. Another interesting fact about this item box is that its animation file is placed alongside the model. This means it was intended to use bone animation instead of having its animation hard-coded like in the final product. Next up, this sign in Moo Moo Farm wasn't yet properly translated, saying Momo Farm. Aside from that, everything else is the same as the final design. All instances of Donkey Kong's name only says Donkey in this demo, whereas in the final game and in all other prototypes that we'll cover later, it will just say DK or Donkey Kong. Finally for this demo, some of the CARC internal names for courses were changed, with the most interesting example being for Waluigi Pinball, which is just called Luigi Course. This could mean that this iconic track was maybe intended to be a Luigi-themed course during development. We will explore more of this later. There's not much to talk about with this demo, but the next demo is jam-packed with interesting details to discuss. Next up is a USA Kiosk Demo, which was from May 30th, 2005. Immediately in this demo there are some notable differences from the final product. The title screen has a slightly different colour scheme and includes the old Mario Kart DS logo before it was changed. After that, the track selection menu is totally different. Most of the graphics and fonts used alter from the finalized look, and some of the preview images for tracks are different as well. But most notably, this demo also contains only 2 cups, the Nitro Cup and the Retro Cup, both featuring strange graphics, with the Nitro Cup showing Yoshi standing next to a star with the letter N on it, standing for Nitro, and the Retro Cup featuring Toad next to a star with the letter R on it, for Retro. Interestingly, almost all of the item graphics were different as well, more resembling Mario Kart Double Dash. Most notable changes include the blooper, which uses its Mario Sunshine design instead of its standardized modern look, and the lightning. I can't tell if this is supposed to be some sort of lightning orb, or if the image just wasn't made fully transparent yet. I do think it's the latter though. Fake item boxes are not at all included in this demo either. In the battle mode, shine sprites used to be just flat, rotated images instead of being an animated sprite. And the same goes for these coins, which also use their Mario 64 design with the star in the middle. Some other changes include the angry sun found in Desert Hills not yet being complete, instead just being an orange circle with the sun written on it in Japanese. And a model for Bullet Bill, which for some reason has no eyes and is visually much pointier. This could have been used for the item model or the model used for Bullet Bills in Airship Fortress. Unlike the European demo, Donkey Kong is now named DK and actually uses voice clips from Donkey Kong 64 instead of his modern voice. The character selection screen was also slightly altered, with the character icons being more close together and with the logo in the bottom right corner. I actually really like this design. What do you think? Some other tiny differences is that no smoke particles exist when stalling at the beginning of the race, and that the minimap in the bottom screen could actually be zoomed in and out by horizontally swiping at the bottom screen. It's a shame that this one was removed. It sounds like a really nice feature. Another graphical change is that the font used when Lakitu is counting down, as well as when the race starts and ends, were changed, with the demo going for a more orange colour scheme, and the fonts also being bigger. Next is an early version of the emblem editor, which looks completely different, with less options than the final version, but also including more colour options than the final version. Several error screens can also be found in this demo. Nothing particularly special though, just a white text translating to temporary pause, with one screen showing parts of Yoshi's circuit. Now, one of the coolest things found here is that there is actually another character planned for this game, but was ultimately replaced by Drybones. This character is Professor Egad from Luigi's Mansion, but when trying to load him, he however shows up as Toad. Shame. The other unlockable characters also exist in this game, but are unfinished and just use files from other characters. Only standard vehicles were able to be used in this Kiosk demo, but some of the other vehicles are in the game and show some differences in the models. First up is the Tyrant, which is mostly the same, but the claws in the front of the car are much smaller and thinner. The Light Tripper wasn't as chunky in the demo, and the front wheels are further apart. Similarly, the front wheels on the 4-wheel Cradle were a lot smaller, instead of matching the back wheels. The Egg 1 was mostly pink here for some reason, with a green rim. And finally, the Brute doesn't at all resemble the final design for some reason. All of these designs can still be found in the final game as well. All cups are available in this demo, but the retro tracks were named the SNES Cup, N64 Cup, GBA Cup, and the GCN Cup, each featuring tracks from the corresponding game. The Nitro Cups are all the same as the final game, however. Now for some early item data. The Boo exists in this demo, just like the final game, but trying to use the Boo just crashes the game. It's likely the functionality was not yet complete. Another unused item is the Chain Chomp, which while it can't be used, it does show up in the item roulette during the demo. This item was likely replaced by the Bullet Bill later in development. Textures for two more completely unused items are here as well, being the Bowser shell from Double Dash and a purple Koopa shell. It's unknown what this shell would do since no data exists for it. Bottom screen icons also exist for these two items as well as the Chain Chomp. There is only one unused character model here, being this terribly low poly Shy Guy model. This model does actually exist in the final game, but only in the download play version. Maybe this means that Shy Guy was supposed to be playable at any time initially? A cool unused graphic is this graphic of Lakitu's countdown sign, like from earlier games in the series. It's even fully animated, but was ultimately scrapped. Also like older games, a speedometer was planned for Mario Kart DS. This speedometer and the old Lakitu sign can apparently be seen in some rare GDC 2005 gameplay as well. It's obvious that Mario Kart DS used to be much more similar to Double Dash during development, and nowhere is this more evident than these really early menu placeholders that looked directly from Double Dash, although they are totally static this time. This even goes for the characters and vehicle icons, which are straight up just out of Double Dash. Finally for this demo are several unused but fully accessible racetracks and battle mode courses. Mini Stage 1 is a beta version of the Nintendo DS battle track. A cool detail is that the bottom screen is actually slightly extruded inwards, instead of being completely flat, like an actual DS. Old Mario GC is a recreation of Mario's circuit from Double Dash, just without a lot of the hazards, such as the piranha plants or chain chomps. Then we have the previously mentioned Luigi course, a crusty, unfinished version of Waluigi Pinball. Interestingly, the track used to contain a lot more bumpers, and the actual pinball board used to have much more going on. Dokkan course is a test map which contains 2 pipes to drive through. If I was to guess, this was made to test how carts would interact with these pipe structures. Just don't fall off this course or the game will crash. If you are lucky, you can glitch the game to drive upside down for a bit. Test 1 course is your standard test map, checkerboard patterns and all. For those who may not know, these test maps are used to test almost everything in the game. This map contains loop-de-loops, pipes, ramps and so much more. It even contains assets from certain courses, like the moving platforms from Bowser Castle, Delfino Square's bridge, and Tick-Tock Clock's cogs. DK Course 1 is an early DK pass, but strangely without any snow and instead uses a grass-like texture. Maybe this wasn't always intended to be a snow course. Similarly, Wario Course is an early Wario Stadium. It lacks many objects, but is mostly the same as the final version. Noko Noko Course translates to Koopa Troopa Course. It's a fairly generic beach course, which this game wasn't lacking. Likely this is why it was cancelled. Test Circle is a tiny one-lap circle with one item box. It lasts about 5 seconds. Then, MR Stage 1 is an early version of Big Bully's boss room. It features a small circular grass platform and lacks any skyboxes. Big Bully is not present, however. I guess he got the day off. MR Stage 4 is an early version of the Wiggler boss race, but without balloons, and Wiggler is just stuck forever running in place. This demo even includes some early music tracks. I'll give you some examples now. There is an entirely unused song that was supposed to play when loading a track with no music. It's called SEQ Circuit 2. Here is a sample. The Grand Prix result theme was also completely different. Each character even has a horn honking sound, including characters not even in Mario Kart DS. A handful of the game's courses also have substantial changes to them in this demo, so let's go over a few. The pyramid found in Desert Hills used to be a pseudo-shortcut featuring a bridge crossing a pool of water, at least according to this early minimap. The shortcut itself doesn't actually exist. The giant egg found in the center of Yoshi Falls used to never exist at all, making this track much blander. My favourite is definitely the fact that these Boo paintings found in Luigi's Mansion used to shake and stretch, as if a ghost is possessing it. This is my favourite detail because this detail was actually brought back in the 3DS remake of the track in Mario Kart 7. Additionally, these trucks found on Shroom Ridge with the Cheep design used to say flesh rather than fresh. This is really funny to me for some reason. And that's all of the major discoveries found in this kiosk prototype. But we aren't done yet. Next up is the stuff actually found in the final release. Let's start with some unused or altered objects. An early version of the Goomba obstacle was found. Interestingly, this version uses 8 frames of animation, while the final version only uses 4 to save space. This early Goomba also has a pronounced black outline around it for some unknown reason. Also, an early version of some fireballs were found in Wario Stadium. These seem to be less round and more spiky than the final version. I actually kind of prefer this variant. This yellow car found on Mushroom Bridge also has an early, less detailed version, with a totally different design for the front. These pinball bumpers from Waluigi Pinball used to be much shorter. The reason they made them taller is for this neat trick used to simulate reflections, by having half of the model underneath the semi-see-through surface. The flippers were also changed to look more menacing and futuristic, as well as being taller just like the bumpers. The gears and tick-tock clock, as well as the bridge from Delfino Square, were minutely altered in the final version, to the point where it's hard to tell the difference sometimes. But trust me, there is a difference. The boulders found on Choco Mountain has a different texture and used to look more low poly and pointy. The water in the beach tracks went through some texture changes as well. Test Brock is a checkerboard pattern platform. There's actually an early test version of these moving platforms on Bowser Castle. One of my favourite unused objects is this tree model. If this looks familiar, it's because these trees were used in Double Dash and later on in Mario Kart Wii. This tree was theorized to be used on the unused Mario Circuit recreation I mentioned earlier. Let's quickly go over some unused graphics. Here is an early map of Yoshi Circuit. An early version of King Boo's coin battle map, this time being lava themed. Some early assets of the Emblem Maker, different from the kiosk version mentioned earlier, as well as a mock-up of what it would look like put together. Early team emblems, various Shy Guy icons. These can actually be accessed in the final game by using an action replay code to play as Shy Guy and win a Grand Prix, or by getting a time trial record. And here are some early emblems that can be seen in the early screenshots of the game. Finally, time for some miscellaneous stuff to go through. First of all, there are some tracks that had alternate camera sequences for the start of the race. Luigi's Mansion and DK Pass both have unused sequences. Here they are. Daisy had her character model changed for the final game. Her hands are much less beefy now, and her head looks different. Bizarrely, some pink was also added to her crown for some reason. This may be a mistake. Some of the mission mode battles have hidden skybox models, used from other courses, that don't at all fit the battles. They are hidden out of bounds, however. Maybe they changed the themes of these fights last minute and never actually removed them? For some reason, Baby Park has a hidden graphic so far away nobody would ever see it without hacking. This paratrooper building appears in the minimap, yet nothing else does. Did this attraction have some sort of significance at some point but was removed? There is also an unused music track found in the final build that we haven't mentioned yet, called SEQ0005. It is unknown where this track was supposed to play, but it's not half bad to be honest. Take a listen. After that, a bunch of standard carts were also found. While the design of the cart is basically unchanged, the textures are slightly different as they lack car seats and feature the early emblems I mentioned earlier. Found in the files are many unused missions, but something tells me some of these may have just been used for testing, such as one where you have 5 whole minutes to collect a singular coin as Luigi. Challenging. And finally, some regional differences. While not technically cut content, it's still interesting to look at. The most obvious one and the most famous are Rob's alternate colours for Japan, where it is white and red instead of grey. In this game, he is also named HVC-012. The colour change also goes for Rob's vehicle, the Rob Legs. In Japan and Korea, computer players are labelled COM followed by their corresponding number. In other territories, they are labelled CPU instead of COM. As usual with these games, the Japanese names of some courses differ from the Western versions. For example, Desert Hills is called Sun Desert, Airship Fortress is Killer Ship, and Shroom Ridge is Kanoko Ridgeway. Kanoko being Toad's Japanese name. Various vehicles also have different names in Japan, like the Mushmallow just being named Mush. And that wraps it up for all the notable cut content from Mario Kart DS, as well as wrapping up the first episode of this brand new series. It was super fun to look back at what could have been included in this amazing game, as well as looking back at some crusty early assets. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did making it, and maybe you learned something new about this game. If you have any suggestions for games for me to look at, please leave a comment. I can't wait to make the next one, but until then I will see you all next video.